jump right into it, and we got to hear from both Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts on playing each other for the third time. Speaking of most important game of your life, same for Jaden Daniels.
I think you put some different wrinkles into your game plan, and I'm pretty sure they will too. But at the end of the day, it's about execution and fundamentals, and that's a very good team that we're going to face for a third time again. So they got a lot of good players. Obviously, we know them; they know us. So it's going to be a fun matchup going up against them on Sunday.
Really well-coached group. They fly to the ball. They affect the passer. Got great defensive backs. I think they're a great team, obviously, to be playing consistent ball like they have. They're a really good team. Really good group on defense for sure.
The Eagles favored by 6 points at home.
Really good group on defense.
Yeah.
Thanks for not watching any tape on Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. We're okay on offense, too, by the way. NBD.
I mean, Jaden Daniels ain't going to have to tackle Jalen Hurts, so.
No, sir.
I hope he's not watching film.
It's the greatest vibes mismatch NFC Championship game in history. I don't know what's going on with the Eagles still. Eagles carry themselves like a disaster team that went 7-10 and is about to fire everyone. They're minus 285 to be in the Super Bowl.
I have a real question, though. Legit question. Is Nick Sirianni coaching for his job? If they lose a home game that they're favored by over a touchdown to the Commanders to not go to the Super Bowl, do they fire Nick Sirianni? It's a genuine question.
It would be crazy.
It depends how bad things are behind the scenes.
Right, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And also, the coaching pool out there is not good right now.
It's drying
I
up.
don't think they should. I'm asking you if they will. I mean, just again, because the fan base is crazy there. It's a passionate fan base.
You take a step back and look at Nick Sirianni's coaching record. it's insanely good for someone who is thought of, held in not the highest regard. I think because of the way that he's carried on and some of the decisions, or even though, I think his in-game decision making for the most part is fine. It's all the other stuff about yelling at the Chiefs fans and yelling at his own fans in the Browns game. But I mean, the guy took a franchise that had just moved on from Carson Wentz, who they took with the second pick and was the MVP favorite, and then he basically reinvented the team with Jalen Hurts. They made the Super Bowl. They were very close to winning the Super Bowl. They were minus 400 at halftime of the Super Bowl to win that championship, and now they're, again, likely going to be in another Super Bowl. If it wasn't for all the antics, we'd be thinking this guy's going to be here for the next decade. But just because of all the antics, I think it just clouds everything.
It's an interesting dynamic because I think the people that are anti-Nick Sirianni would point to, Howie Roseman has constructed an unbelievable roster between free agency and draft. Roseman has done truly an incredible job. And that if you look at, somewhat of the success, and it's a little bit mixed, but, that Steichen and Gannon have had, and just how much the team fell off when they left. And so they're back a little bit better. But again, Fangio's done a great job. I think people generally are pro Kellen Moore. And so I think the anti-Nick Sirianni people would be like it's just all the coordinators. He's been granted one of, if not the best roster top to bottom in the NFL, and has been and he's got two fantastic coordinators. Yeah. Kellen Moore has had success at a high level, especially with Dallas. Fangio's a legend as a defensive coordinator.
I just think it's so hard, Connor, to evaluate coaches who don't own a specific side of the ball. It's so much easier to evaluate, Kevin O'Connell seems to do a really good job. Or Dan Quinn has gotten a ton out of this Washington defense that we thought was going to be one of the worst defenses in football. Nick Sirianni, I know he's more on the offensive side of the ball, but, it was Steichen's offense. It's now Kellen Moore's offense. So I just don't know how to evaluate him outside of, the fourth down decision making.
Well, I think what you can say is he gets credit for making those hires, right? Sure. And they've lost a lot of people over the years, and he's replenished. That was something you look at Vrabel when things got bad in Tennessee. He lost Matt LaFleur, then Arthur Smith, and then eventually, the third time around, you just run out of hires. Right. Yeah. Sirianni has made some hires that have really given him a bigger shelf life.
Yeah, and it gets to the point where things start to become less of a coincidence at this point. If they win this game, that's 2 Super Bowls in 3 seasons. For the Chiefs now, it's not a mistake that they're in 7 straight AFC Championship games. It's the same thing we used to say about Tom Brady and the Patriots. If you keep getting to a certain point, the Eagles had a bad season last year, right? But they won 10 games. They got smoked in the playoffs. But if that's a bad year, then look out for the good years, which is now.
Yep. Well, for sure. I'm just asking anyway, and we can move on about let's talk about the actual game. But I'm just curious, what happens that was my question. Is Nick Sirianni coaching for his job in this one? And the consensus seems to be no. But I suspect that there will be Philly fans calling WIP yelling for Sirianni's head if they lose this game.
I'd back 10-1 that he's not there if they lose the game. I don't think it's favored or anything, but I think it's in the cards just because of all the weirdness behind the scenes. But to his credit, they've reinvented this offense frequently, and now we're in a game where they have a running back whose rushing total is set at 128.5, and they run the ball religiously now after being the Eagles have always been on the cutting edge of analytics and fourth down decision making and throwing on early downs and that stuff, and they've reinvented this offense behind the run game, and now Saquon is clearly the identity of the team.
Rightfully so, by the way. I can't remember a prop line of 128. Is that the highest ever?
Has to be,
right up there.
LaDainian Tomlinson, I guess, back in the day. But, I remember Jonathan Taylor in 2021 when he was going on that epic surge. He was getting into the 120s, but that was when they were, playing the, 2-win Texans.
Sure,
right.
Playoffs.
This is an NFC title game, and he set at 128.5.
Right. And by the way, if forced, I might take the over.
Oh, right.
I don't think I'm going to bet on any Eagles overs. Just I don't want that rooting interest at all. But if I had to take a side on that, I think I would. I'm definitely not betting against Saquon Barkley. I'll let you know that. Commanders have not had success against the run all year long, and so Barkley's just been fantastic, including the 2 games against Washington. Right? He's just been nothing short of terrific. As we look at some of the plays here, I guess let's start on the Eagles side of the ball here. We sort of flashed the screen up quickly. We can flash it up again. But here's some of if you're playing DFS on DraftKings, some of the prices here. Saquon's only, I was going to say, he's 8,600, but I think he's worth paying up for. 2 playoff games, almost 60 touches in the 2 games combined, and rightfully so. I told you, I thought the reason the Lions lost the game to the Commanders is that they didn't give the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs 30 times. If they'd just done that and not let Jared Goff throw the ball, they probably would win that game.
Yeah, and with Saquon Barkley, the price being like this and the rushing number being set like that, it's his numbers that high because he consistently breaks long runs every other game. It's not how sometimes they say, well, if you take away that long run, Saquon is that you can't take away the long run because he's liable to do it every single game. He just did it twice in one single game, so it's no shock to see his rushing total that high, and obviously the 8,600 would be worth paying out for.
That's a bet I actually like better than the total yards. His longest rush was 20.5. I'm not sure where it's going to land, but he breaks off a 20-plus yard run every single week.
And it could come on carry number 21. You could be holding him for the whole game, and boom, just like that, he out of there.
And that's what Washington did in the first matchup, where they did hold Barkley until the fourth quarter, and then he just went ballistic and ended up winning the Eagles the game. He had a 68-yard touchdown when they played Washington the second time. He had the 39-yarder the first time, so he has shown that he can get to the second level against this defense.
All right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what, to me, the biggest matchup here is, can Washington protect Jaden Daniels as well? Sam Cosmi, their right guard, is not going to miss this game. They're going to have to double, maybe even triple Jalen Carter in this as well. So can they keep him upright? Because especially the Eagles' defense is so good, and especially in that first game. But I feel like in both games, but especially the first game, they did such a good job of containing Daniels and just not letting him get outside the pocket and just and by the way, he's a good enough passer that that's fine. If they give him enough time, he will pick you apart. But if they're able to get pressure on him without blitzing, it's going to be potentially a long day for my beloved Commanders.
Lawrence,
but I believe in 5. Faith in 5.
Gives you a chance.
Yeah. He's got a shot.
Lawrence, how about a value play down the board here? We've seen Diami Brown get way more involved in the playoffs. We know how tough the Eagles have been on the back end. They're now maybe a little banged up there, but Brown seems like he's settled in as the number 2.
Yeah, and Matthew, you talked about Jaden Daniels definitely being good enough as a passer. Diami Brown has emerged as that number 2 receiver especially in the playoffs, at least 5 receptions and 85 yards in both playoff games. So I think if he could be a factor, you expect what you expect from Daniels, Terry McLaurin, maybe even Zach Ertz get in the end zone there. But if Brown could have another good game, that puts a little bit more stress on the defense when you have to worry about another guy. And at 4,400, if you take a guy like Saquon Barkley at the 8,600, Brown is a guy you want to look at receiver.
They'll take some deep shots to Brown. Mitchell either may not play or may not be 100% if he does go as well. And you figure Brown sees more Mitchell in this one as well. I think I think they'll probably stick Slay on McLaurin at least a decent amount of the time. Would be my expectation.
Another bet I like in this game, Austin Eckler is set at 23.5 receiving yards. If you remember the first time these teams matched up, Eckler didn't play. The second game, Eckler was targeted 9 times and he went 8 for 89. 23.5, I think it's very low. I think just that with the pressure that Daniels is going to be seeing, do think he's going to have to check down some. Eckler looks great. He looks explosive. He's been a big part of the offense past 2 games. Also, they're 6-point dogs, so you'd expect that they may need to be in a throw script. And so, I mean, Eckler's like 13-1 to get 70-plus receiving yards, which he did win the previous matchup.
He's beaten those. He's beaten that number in each of the 2 playoff games as well. I don't think they'll be able to run up the middle as well. That bet may come up later in the show. By the way,
your biggest thing here, Matthew, for the Commanders is can they stop the run? They gave up 200 rushing yards. Like you said, they should have given it to Jahmyr Gibbs more. And can they create turnovers from an offense that doesn't turn the ball over?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll stick. There's Marshawn Lattimore and A.J. Brown, and hopefully that goes a little bit better than it did the first time they played. I think they'll put Sanastrell on Devontae Smith, and they're just going to hopefully, like, we're going to take our chances that Jalen Hurts beats us. We're going to try to stop Saquon. That would be my guess, is what they do some version of that to get a chance. But I think it comes down to turnovers, to your point. Like, obviously the Eagles last week, a bunch of turnovers against the Rams. Commanders won the turnover battle, obviously big time against the Lions, but also, they got 2 turnovers against the Buccaneers as well. And so that's among the reasons why both teams are in the NFC Championship game. Not going to be great weather. It should be cold. So whoever can hang on to the ball likely has the best chance of winning here. So, I'm super nervous. But I think we got a shot. I think we got a 1-3 shot. I think
the better quarterback.
We have the better quarterback, and I think we have the better coach. I think they're better everywhere else. Maybe not linebacker. I mean, with them losing Nakobe Dean, maybe we might be tied at linebacker.
Zach Bond's pretty good.
What? But so is Bobby Wagner in a playoff game. So, and Luvu's been great.
Luvu has been really good.
So I think linebacker we might be even. I think they're better everywhere else across the board, certainly on both sides of the line. But I think we got the better quarterback, and I think we got the better coach. That gives us a chance. Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.